How climate change is bad for humanity. Have we all not seen the radical left and corporate structures pushing for a so-called green way of life over the last several years? Could there possibly be a bigger agenda afoot? Let's take a look. Personally, I believe if they cared so much for the planet, they would encourage people to live a sustainable life through growing food, not just purchasing more expensive sustainable products. They would teach people how to live a more simple life, one where consumption wasn't the driving factor. They would promote products to be made that would last as opposed to falling into planned obsolescence. It's also interesting that the left declares the right doesn't care about the environment when I see people on the right like myself growing food, using and reusing products and packaging in creative ways as we've always done. Could there be a war on humanity, or is it about cleaner living? My fascination with this subject started back when I first heard about UN Agenda 21 over a decade ago. If you haven't heard about this failure of a project, maybe you will recognize other more modern names such as the Green New Deal or maybe Agenda 2030. The UN and global community, including the WEF and WHO, have openly called for global depopulation, while nobody heeds these warnings. Today, they claim we are facing climate change, when in fact the climate has been changing since the formation of the Earth and will continue until the Earth is a charred cinder. Now, if we want to touch on the real issues, they would be government manipulated climate and environmental destruction, which is 100% man-made. Could evidence lead us to believe that the AMA, WHO, UN, WEF, and our very own government are in on one of the largest hoaxes in human history, all under the guise of protecting your health? Let's paint a picture that's easily understood. We will start with the AMA. June 13th, 2022, the AMA declares climate change as a public health crisis. Let that sink in for a second. This is setting the stage for public health emergencies, meaning what your government and health department does will be dictated by the climate change narrative. The WHO also believes climate change is a result of human activities, neglecting the fact that places like the Sahara used to be an inland sea and Antarctica used to have tropical ferns growing upon it. The UN also speaks in regards to climate change and sustainable development, yet fails to address actually solving the problems which plague humanity, bloated and inept government. As for the World Economic Forum, who is comprised of some of the most egotistical, psychopathic philanthropists to ever walk the planet, and who meet once a year in Davos to decide how they will control and enslave the peasants of the world, that's us, also speaking extensively on climate change. Could there be a picture emerging here? It's one of tying health and the forever changing climate together in a maniacal marriage of control and domination by the combined healthcare/government umbrella, becoming yet again another permanent temporary government program. My theory is that this is being perpetrated to usher in the Great Reset and the Build Back Better agenda. I was doing some research here in Florida in regards to legal definitions of vaccine, of which I couldn't find one, when I came across an interesting and obscure law which was recently passed in our great and medically free state, Florida Statute 252.36. This law is fascinating to say the least, and yet I've heard nobody talking about it. Don't worry, we will discuss this more later, as well as 381.00315. Let's talk about the WHO Pandemic Treaty. I recently heard of this treaty, so I decided to check it out. The Worldwide Initiative began talks in March of 2021. Other talks are scheduled for later this year, culminating in procedures being put in place for a 2024 rollout. To me, this sounds like nothing less than a global consolidation by the IHR, WHO, and UN. And I quote, "As an international instrument, the IHR was created to prevent and respond to acute public health emergencies that have the potential to cross borders and threaten people worldwide, precisely like, I can't say the word, the vid." Just like the vid, huh? They are quite clear in what is represented in their preliminary proposal. And I quote, "The IHR provides the WHO with the authority to collect surveillance data and to issue recommendations on trade and travel advisories to control the spread of infectious diseases." That's right, surveillance, which is not limited to just data, but every aspect of our lives. The good news is the USA might not take part in it. However, that really doesn't matter. Being that we're a member of the WHO already means we accept anything they force upon us. Stating later, funding for the WHO and a number of other UN agencies also remains insufficient. So, where do we think they're going to get the money to make them sufficient? Of course, they'll drain all participating countries. Nothing like some EGS and higher taxes going to an inept government to solve world problems. Always worked in the past. Anyway, later in their article, it speaks of the WHO and their constitutional authority, which made me curious what that's all about. And I quote, "Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity." Wow. Meaning they plan to dominate the physical, mental, and social aspects of our lives, including dictating where we are obligated to put in our bodies. Back to 252.36. Yet again, in the free state of Florida, another dictatorial law emerges, and no less than under the guidance of our greatly incompetent governor, Ron DeSantis. 252.36 Emergency Management Powers. We're going to go through this just a little bit so you can get the idea. 1A, the governor is responsible for meeting the dangers presented to this state and its people by emergencies. In the event of an emergency beyond local control, the governor, or in the governor's absence, her or his successor as provided by law, may assume direct operational control over all or any part of the emergency management functions within the state. And she or he shall have the power through this proper process of law to carry out the provisions of this section. The governor is authorized to delegate such powers as she or he may deem prudent. Blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the meat. B. Pursuant to the authority vested in her or him under paragraph A, the governor may issue executive orders, proclamations, and rules, and may amend or rescind them. Okay. So, I just want to say here, first of all, have you noticed the language change? Pursuant to the authority vested in her or him. It used to be him or her, but whatever. Number 6. In addition to any other powers conferred upon the governor by law, she or he may, and I'm going to skip down a few to letter E, direct and compel evacuations of all or part of the population from any stricken or threatened area within the state if he or she deems this action necessary for the preservation of life or other emergency mitigation, response, or recovery. F. Prescribe routes, modes of transportation, and destinations in connection with evacuation, like being forced into trains, perhaps, or maybe to FEMA camp? Nah. G. Control ingress and egress to and from an emergency area, the movement of persons within the area, and the occupancy of premises therein. Meaning, if you occupy an area which the WHO pandemic treaty controlled government decides is an emergency, maybe even a climate change emergency, they will be able to forcibly remove you. H. Suspend or limit the sale, dispensing, or transportation of alcoholic beverages, firearms, explosives, and combustibles, meaning gasoline. However, nothing contained in SS 252.31 through 252.90 shall be construed to authorize the seizure, taking, or confiscation of firearms that are lawfully possessed unless the person is engaged in the commission of a criminal act. And by a criminal act, that means not complying with orders. You got it? I. Make provisions for the availability and use of temporary emergency housing, which means FEMA camps or even taking your home to house people in, anything they deem. J. Take effective measures for limiting or suspending lighting devices and appliances, gas and water mains, electric power distribution, and all other utility services in the general public interest. No interpretation needed on this one. They will literally cut off your power, water, and all other utilities to force you out of any given area, because who's going to stay without power and water? Let's go to K. Take measures concerning the conduct of civilians, the movement and cessation of movement of pedestrians and vehicular traffic prior to, during, and subsequent to drills and actual or threatened emergencies, the calling of public meetings and gatherings, and the evacuation and reception of civilian population as provided in the emergency management plan of the state and political subdivision thereof. Take measures concerning the conduct of civilians? Huh? So, move faster or you're going to a worse gulag? I see how that runs. Let's see. L. Authorize the use of forces already mobilized as a result of an executive order, rule, or proclamation to assist the private citizen of the state in cleanup and recovery operations during emergencies when the proper permission to enter into or onto private property has been obtained from the property owner. The provisions of S 768.28 apply to this paragraph. That's right, use the military that you pay for to help round you up efficiently, because we wouldn't want to waste their money now, would we? The statute continues on, but I'm not going to bore you with the details. Please feel free to research them yourselves. Moving on to 381.00315. This bill, which was placed then revamped in 2022 to remove the word vaccinate, however, still does not take being vaccinated off the table. In fact, it is so much more. You can read the whole thing, but here's what popped out to me. Number 4. Ordering an individual to be examined, tested, treated, isolated, or quarantined for communicable diseases that have significant morbidity or mortality and present a severe danger to public health. Individuals who are unwilling or unable to be examined, tested, or treated for reasons of health, religion, or conscience may be subject to isolation or quarantine. Let's go to A. Examination, testing, or treatment may be performed by a qualified person authorized by the state health officer, which means anybody. B. If the individual poses a danger to public health, the state health officer may subject the individual to isolation or quarantine. If there is no practical method to isolate or quarantine the individual, the state health officer may use any means necessary to treat the individual, which treatment is anything that they deem it is. Let's go to C. Any order of the state health officer given to effectuate this paragraph is immediately enforceable by a law enforcement officer under S 381.0012. So does this all add up now? There's no two-party system. There's nobody in government working to save us. Everyone is paid to collapse our world to bring about the new world order. Our main problem is we allow these evil people to light so many fires, and we become so consumed that we miss what's really important, which in my opinion is stopping the arsonist. Just a bit of advice from me, take it or leave it. It's time to unite as Americans and stop with all the division. Like the old saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall, and we're falling like never before, and it's no coincidence. As humans, we mostly all want the same things. Safe schools, good jobs, clean hospitals, with reputable doctors, fun with friends and family, and to raise our children free from crime. So why can't we unite to end the insanity? Please like, subscribe, and share this video, as it's important for everyone to know what's really going on right in front of our faces. Thank you.